Welcome back, Undertakers. Thanks for joining me today. In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a peach pie. This is really good pie. I've made it a number of times. Now, sometimes I cook it on the smoker. Today I'm going to cook it in the oven, which reminds me, before you get started, make sure you set your oven or your smoker or however you want to cook it. Make sure you set it to 350. And the second thing you want to do before you get started is I'm using pre-made pie dough today. Big deal. No. It happens. You don't have to make it yourself every time. But make sure you lay these out so they get to room temperature before you start, because it's a lot easier to work with. And then we're going to need some peaches. There's not a whole lot of other ingredients. Little sugar, little salt, little flour, little cornstarch, little lemon juice, a little Chinese 5-spice we're going to sneak in there. And I'll put the amounts for all that down below so that you'll know. And then the first step, once you get your oven heated up and your pie crust out, is you want to take about 3 pounds of peaches and you want to peel and slice them. So I've already done that, and I saved one and I peeled it and cut it on video for you, but a little technical difficulty forced me to reshoot the opening here, so you're not going to get to see that. But you know how to peel and slice a peach, right? It's pretty simple. If you don't know how, check out my my video I did on peach cobbler. I show you how to do it in that video, so all is not lost. You can check it out there if you're not sure what to do. So now that I got my 3 pounds of peaches in here, what we want to do, even though we're going to have some flour and some cornstarch in here, we want to make sure we don't end up with a runny pie. So this next step is optional. It's just a little bit of insurance if you want to take it out. Now for this pie, we're going to need 1 cup of sugar. So what you want to do is take about half of that, sprinkle that over your peach slices. Not like that. I'm not really getting too, I mean, it's all going to end up in the pie anyway, so it doesn't have to be exactly a half. And then we want to do just a little pinch of salt like that. And then we're just going to stir this up. Let this sit for about 15 minutes or so, and that's going to suck a bunch of the juice out of the peaches. And then what we'll do is we'll take that juice, we'll reduce it, add it back in here, and that way that's going to just help us ensure we don't end up with a runny pie. So let me stir this up, and then we'll mix our dry ingredients together. Alright, now into a separate bowl while we wait for our peaches to kind of drain some of their juice out of there, which smells great, by the way. Into another bowl we're going to add the rest of our sugar. We want a 1/4 cup of flour, a tablespoon of cornstarch. And now this last ingredient, if you have some Chinese 5-spice, that works great in here. If you don't, you can put some cinnamon in there. And if you don't want to use either one, leave it out. It's up to you. But I'm going to put about a 1/4 teaspoon in there. And you want it to be overpowering. You want it to, you know, complement the pie and not take over the whole place, which it can do. Then we just want to mix this all together. Alright, now I'm just going to set this aside. We're going to wait for our peaches to drain, and then I'll show you how we're going to reduce it. Okay, it's been about 20 minutes. We've got a good amount of liquid in our bowl of peaches, so now you can use a strainer. I'm going to use a colander for this, and we're just going to very carefully put our peaches in there, let all the juice drain out of there right into a pan, or a small little pot really. Alright, now there's still some liquid up here in the peaches, so I'll give this just a few minutes just to sit and kind of let any of that excess liquid drain down into our little pot. And then we'll get it on the stove and reduce it down. Alright, so after a few minutes, it's been 4 or 5 minutes, pour our peaches back into our large mixing bowl. Alright, and then you can see we've got a nice amount of liquid in there. I would say that's probably close to 3/4 cup maybe. So we just want to reduce that down till it gets nice and thick and like a sticky little syrup. Now here, if you want, you have another option. Just like this entire step here is an option, or the cinnamon and the 5-spice, that's an option. You don't have to do it. But I do know that whiskey pairs pretty well with peaches, so if you want, you can always hit this with a little splash of whiskey before we cook it. Like that. And now we're just going to put this on the stove and let it reduce. Alright, and there's what we're looking for. A nice syrup like that. I mean, it's still a little liquidy. You don't want it to look like maple syrup or honey, but it's definitely more of a syrup. And it'll get a little thicker when it cools down, so we're going to take that off the heat. And now let's put the rest of the pie together. Alright, now while our syrup cools down, back to our peaches here. And by the way, that syrup is totally worth making, and nothing else, just to smell up the house. Man, that smells good. Alright, now we want to put in about a teaspoon or so of some lemon juice. And then to that, now we want to pour in our dry ingredients that we mixed up earlier. Just kind of give everything a nice mix around there. Oh, there you get a much better idea. Much more syrupy. Alright, now get the syrup mixed up in there. Alright, now we just got to get this into the pie crust and into the oven. Alright, now you can see I've taken our first pie crust and I've already got it in our pie shell here, or our pie plate there. And just kind of move it around so it's even. Make sure you have some along the edge. Then get our peaches in there. Oh yeah. Alright, now before we put the top crust on, we just want to go around and add a little butter to the top of this. I don't want to put whole pats on here, but kind of like that. This is probably about a tablespoon of butter, so it's not a lot. Just help keep the top a little moist on there. Alright, now for the top crust. You just want to lay out your other crust that you had. And then if you have good knife skills, you can use a knife. I'm going to use a pizza cutter. And you just want to go and cut this. Try to stretch it out, make sure it's an even shape here. And you just want to cut this into about 1-inch strips. Just like that. Yeah, and as you can see, those aren't perfect. But then you want to take your longest strip and lay it right on the middle of the pie like that. And then you want to have 5 strips on the top. So now we'll go over here and get a medium length one like that. Kind of like that. Alright, now I'll get a little closer and I'll show you how we're going to weave this together. Now I have a video where I showed you how to weave bacon together. This is essentially the same way, except the bacon, you kept the strips close together. Over here, we're leaving some gaps here. So to start, you just want to start here with your middle strip, pull it back about halfway, and the end strip. So every other strip halfway. Then take one of your long strips, lay it right across the center, and right back over. Now, you want to take the 2 that we didn't fold back before, fold those back, put our next strip in there like that, fold those back, then back to our outer ones and our middle one that we started with. Like that. And there we go. And then just do the same thing for this side. Just like that. And it doesn't have to be perfectly symmetrical. I mean, don't go measuring each one of these. Once it's baked, it's going to look fine. And then, for the final step here, you're just going to kind of go around and pinch the edges together. Here. Tuck all the corners under. Make sure it's attached to the bottom dough. Then just find a place to start. And just go around and crimp your edges like this. That'll seal everything up nice for you. And again, this doesn't have to be perfect either. Once it bakes, it's going to look fine. So once our lattice is done, we have our edges crimped. Now I like to go in and do a little wash that's on there. You can use milk, you can use cream, you can do an egg wash. I happen to have some half and half here. And you just want to brush some on all your dough. It'll help it brown nicely and keep it from getting too over dried out while it's cooking. Alright, so now we've got our wash on our pie, on our crust. We've got our sugar sprinkled on top of that. Now let's get into our oven. And again, we're setting at 350. And that'll take about an hour, give or take. I'll check on it in probably about 50 minutes. And basically what we're looking for is we're just looking for the crust to be golden brown. You want the inside of the pie to be nice and bubbly. Gold brown, bubbly, delicious. Wow. Oh, look at that. Now that took about an hour and 20 minutes, but it came out just right. Had a little spilling on the side right there, but not too bad. Now for the hardest part of this whole thing, we have to wait till it cools down. So I'm gonna leave it sitting here on the counter. It may take an hour or two, but when it cools down, we'll cut into it and make sure we did good. All right, well, it's been a couple of hours. This thing's cooled down nicely. Let's see how we did. And you know, the first piece is always the worst to get out. So hopefully I can do this without making a big mess. Well, it's not the cleanest cut, but you can see that it's not liquidy, it's not runny, it's set up nice. So that's what we're looking for. Now let's see what it tastes like. Alright, moment of truth here. It doesn't look like much since I kind of mutilated it getting out of there, but let's taste it and see. Get some of that crust on there. Oh. Make this pie. Go buy some peaches. Like now. Go to the store, buy some peaches. Make this pie. It's really easy. It's not that complicated. All the steps I showed you, they're all simple. Doing the lattice work on top was easy. It's time consuming. You know, it took a while for me to peel and slice all those peaches. Then you have to sit and let them sit with the sugar on them for the liquid to drain out. That takes 20 or 30 minutes. Then reducing the syrup takes about 10 minutes. The pie itself took an hour and 20 minutes to cook. Then I have a couple hours of cool down time. But all that, it's worth the wait. This pie is great. So whether you enjoy it by yourself or whether you have people over or you make this and take somewhere, people will remember this pie that you made. And it's simple. You can do it. So if you like this video, do me a favor if you're watching, if you haven't already, hit the little red subscribe button down below. It helps me out a lot. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. It lets me know you like what I'm doing. And as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.